When your child is not feeling well, it is probably one of the worst situations to be in as a parent, and I think most of us can agree to that. My son actually just got over hand, foot, and mouth disease, so I can definitely vouch for that, and he has had his fair share of illnesses over the past 20 months of his life. I have a son named Suleiman, so if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sarah. I'm going to take you guys through some tips and tricks to get through the cold, flu, fever, and hand, foot, and mouth. Why not? Let's go through it. This does not replace the advice of your medical professional. Please seek help if your child is sick, especially under the age of 3 months. These are just some extra things that you can do to kind of relieve some of the pain that they might be going through or discomfort, and to also help you out a little bit. If you're interested in that and would like to have some quick tips and tricks that I've learned over the past few illnesses that my son's had, stay tuned. Problem number 1, your child has a runny nose. What do? My first tip is to run the shower at a hot temperature. You're not going to take your baby inside, you're just going to create some steam, and take your baby into the washroom where there is steam. They just need to be in there for about 2 to 3 minutes max, even less if they're a young child. If they're under the age of 6 months, I would say no longer than 30 seconds to a minute is more than enough. After that, I would also take a couple drops from a saline dropper, which I will show here. It's very effective in getting rid of dried snow. You want to use a bit of saline and then use a nasal aspirator. I like the type where you can suction, not the bulbous, because those tend to cause some issues and people go a little bit too deep with those. The next thing I would do if they have a runny nose is to elevate the area where they sleep. You use it under the mattress. This is just to slightly create an incline so that they're not getting stuffy at night when they're sleeping. It can be very uncomfortable for them to sleep when they're flat on their back and they have congestion. And I highly recommend that you just slightly elevate their crib or bassinet from under the mattress or even under the whole crib by just a little bit. It doesn't take much to do so, and speak to your doctor before doing so for younger children especially. Another thing that you can do at night is to pop a humidifier in their room. Or, as I do, I use an essential oil diffuser, and I like to use lavender because it's relaxing for my son, but it's also antimicrobial, so it will hopefully help disinfect the air. Eucalyptus is another really great one, and lemon or sweet orange work as well. Now, if your baby doesn't have a runny nose, or if they do, that's fine too. But if they are sick, generally you want to keep them as hydrated as possible, and under the age of 6 months, it's strictly breast milk and formula. I think some people even introduce food at 4 months, but just stick with breast milk and formula when your baby's sick. Now, if they're over 6 months of age, then you can speak to your doctor about allotted amount of water that they're allowed to consume. My son, when he was sick, around 7 months, I want to say, we were giving him coconut water, which he preferred to Pedialyte. Pedialyte is a great way to hydrate your child, but if your child is absolutely refusing it and you're doing the whole syringe thing and it's become absolutely just draining trying to get that Pedialyte into them, try coconut water. Coconut water is delicious. It's filled with electrolytes. I'm not one of those homeopathic people. I do have some homeopathic remedies in here, but I will never tell you guys about anything that replaces medication or the medical advice of your doctor. They might have a sore throat. If they have a sore throat, one of the time-old things to make for your child is a bone broth. I like to make chicken bone broth, which is chicken noodle soup. Buying the store-bought stuff is not the same, I'm sorry, and it's very simple to make, and I'll show you guys a quick recipe through that here. Making bone broth is great because it's filled with amino acids. And so in terms of immunity, bone broth contains cysteine, histidine, L-glutamine, and glycine, which are all great amino acids in helping with your baby's immunity functions. Bone broth specifically has is iron. And I like to add a little bit of lemon into my broth to also help with the absorption of the iron. Vitamin C helps absorb iron. So if you like to make something soothing for your child over the age of 6 months, then you can make a bone broth, and it's a great form of electrolytes as well. One of the things that happens when your child is sick is they get hungry because they are. Next thing that I'd like to talk about are medications. What can you give your kid when they're sick? In the case of a viral infection, there's not much you can do, to be honest, other than pain management and reducing their fever. Still talk to your doctor about it regardless. If they confirm they have a virus, then you can manage their pain with Tylenol or Advil. The most important thing is to have a very accurate thermometer. And there are also different measurements of fever depending on where you take your baby's temperature. Usually the most accurate form of measuring a baby's temperature is rectal temperature. So I will leave a chart down below for those interested in knowing the differences in temperature, because yes, there is a difference in fever range based on where you take your baby's temperature. After medication, the most important thing that I find to help your baby get well fast is to disinfect everything. And I don't joke around with disinfecting. I literally do everything in my house. The very first thing I wash are all the toys. Toddlers especially, and young babies who are putting things in their mouth all the time. These things tend to collect a lot of germs, viruses and bacteria alike. So I make a solution. I use sterile hot water, and then I add vinegar, dish soap, baking soda, and lavender essential oil, just a couple drops, because it's antimicrobial again. And I like to wash everything and make sure it's really well disinfected, and then I give it a quick rinse and I let it dry. If your baby has hand, foot, and mouth disease specifically, I need to add 2 teaspoons of bleach per 1 gallon of water. In the case of hand, foot, and mouth disease, there are 2 strains of the virus, and bleach is the only thing that kills them. Again, I highly recommend that you wash their sheets. Wash their sheets and then spray their mattress down with the same type of solution, whichever you're using, the one with bleach or without, your choice depending on what your child has, and spray their crib rails, everything. Anything that they come into contact with needs to be disinfected. And I do say this because that's how quickly bacteria and viruses can spread back to your child, because what happens more often than not is they're just reinfecting themselves. So if you've ever seen that kid that seems always sick, this is likely a culprit of that, along with their diet. But disinfecting everything is very, very important. So I recommend doing it all. Even the couch. I took the couch apart and I took all the covers off of it and ran it through a hot cycle in my laundry. So one of the quick ways that I recommend helping your child if they have hand, foot, and mouth, or a rash, just general sickness, is a good bath. So I like to do lukewarm water, and then what I do is I take a mixture of salt. I use the sea salt. You can use Epsom as well. I use sea salt specifically to kill bacteria. And then I also add to that honey, coconut oil, and I add lavender essential oil and baking soda and sweet orange essential oil. Now, why do I add these particular ingredients? Each one plays a function. Coconut oil is mainly to moisturize. It's just in the bath to act as a bath oil. Honey, which is an antibacterial and antimicrobial as well. And the salt does the same thing as well. It's disinfecting and cleaning. The lavender as well. So it's just kind of like all these things together. They are not going to cure your child. The virus will run its course. It will help at least reduce some of the symptoms. In my son's condition, yes, he had a virus, but it did reduce the itching. If there is anything on the surface of his skin, that is helping him heal and hopefully giving his skin a chance to rehydrate itself, because the more dry it is as well, the more likely it is to be itchy, and that spreads infection, especially if the spot has any type of filling to it. If they pop it, it is super contagious. The last things I recommend is making the dishwasher your best friend. Run everything through the dishwasher. Run their bottles, run their sippy cups, run their entire high chair through the dishwasher if you wish. The more you sterilize things, the more likely, again, they will not be reinfecting or reintroducing whatever they had in their system back into it over and over and over again, and hopefully not contaminating anybody else who might be exposed to them during that time, including yourself. I also kept a spray bottle, which I had the same solution that I used to disinfect his toys with, and I would spray the cupboards, I would spray the floor. I did disinfect the floors as well. I'm telling you guys, I go 110. And I made sure that I was washing all of his clothes in a hot cycle. On my laundry specifically, we have something called the sanitary and baby sanitary cycle. You just basically want to run a hot cycle. And I know this is a little bit damaging to some clothes, but you gotta kill the bacteria. Now, if your baby is not willing to eat because maybe they have some type of, again, sore in their mouth like my son did, you can also opt for cold foods. My son really liked cold bananas. Those are a great snack. I definitely recommend some cold foods. Try to avoid sugary sweets. Those don't really help your child in terms of processed foods. I know they're such an easy crutch when your baby is sick, but it will actually only prolong their sickness if their diet is not up to par. So this is definitely a time that you want to try to focus on getting some nutrients into them. Now, the last bit of advice, it seems common sense, wash your hands. Wash them as often as possible, especially after diaper changes. Usually bacteria and viruses tend to last longer in stool than they do anywhere else. So make sure that you are washing your hands as often as you can. So definitely wash your hands, wear gloves, and make sure that you're staying on top of basic hygiene. I know it's so tough when you're tired and you've done all this cleaning that I've talked about and you're making soups and stocks. Who has time for that, right? I promise you, you will have time for it. So everything in all took less than a couple hours, which is really not a big deal considering I basically cut his illness time in half. So if you would like to do that, I hope that this video inspires you and gives you some kind of idea of what to do when your child is sick. And I wish you all the best. I hope your child gets well soon. If you like this video, please be sure to hit up that like button, subscribe for more videos. I do upload regularly. Please be sure to have your notification bell turned on so you can be notified when I do upload. And if you have more ideas on what you'd like to see, please leave it in the comments below. I want to hear from you. And I'll get back to you soon. Take care.